SwiftUI makes it easy to build screens, but the moment you add loading, errors, or empty states, everything falls apart. You end up scattering progress views, if-is loading checks, and alerts all over your layout, and suddenly every screen behaves a little differently. Now in this video, I will show you the exact async UI pattern I use in production SwiftUI apps. It's a single view modifier that handles loading, error, and empty states, and even lets you inject your own custom overlay UI when you actually need it. No hacks, no duplicated code, just a clean, reusable SwiftUI pattern that actually scales. Before getting into it, go ahead and check out my Christmas sale. The link is down in the description, a few days only. So, what we are going to build out is kind of an async overlay modifier. So we are going to present either success value, when it's loading, and then it's in success, when it's empty, when it fails. So basically that with one single view modifier. So what I have done here is just added a few, buttons so we can test all of this out, and a default UI for our card, what we are going to add in here. But by the way, you can add any view for that state. So we are going to, first of all, let's talk about the states. Async UI state is the file that I have created over here. And basically it's an enum called async UI state. It's equatable. And it has a few cases. So the initial case is idle, right? So then there's a loading, empty, not success, empty, and failed. So after loading, you just set it back to idle. That would be the success value, basically. So let's just have the empty value over here. And we're going to add a message of type string that you can add in. And if you don't really care about the actual message, let's just have here a default one, nothing to see here. Okay, something like that. Or, just add in your own. And with a failure, we're also going to add a message. Most probably you are going to grab this from the errors or localized description. So no default values right over here. So these are the cases that we are going to iterate through according to what state we are in. Now, next up, we are going to build out our view modifier. So I'm going to comment this out later on when we are going to have our view modifier added. But for now, let's just start off with a view modifier template. Let me just remove the preview and the canvas. And maybe let's just have a little bit more space over here. Okay, so that's our default view modifier. Let's clean it up. Let's add in our properties. So first of all, we need a state, of course, state, async UI state. Then we might want to add in, I'm going to add it in, if you want the user to be able to tap outside that card or not and dismiss the view. So that would be let is blocking boolean. Okay, and then if something went wrong, you might want to add a retry option. Let's do that also. So let on retry, and that will be a completion at main actor. So it's on the main thread. And then it will be an asynchronous completion void. Okay, and that would be optional. So sometimes you don't really care about the on retry. And by the way, this is going to support also asynchronous environments, obviously. Okay, I'm running my biggest SwiftUI deal of the year. All my SwiftUI products for just $99. These aren't tutorials you forget. This is production-ready SwiftUI. Patterns, architecture, and real solutions I use in client apps every day. If you want to build faster, write cleaner SwiftUI, and stop fighting the framework, this is for you. The Christmas sale ends December the 27th. Link is in the description. Ship better apps faster. Merry SwiftUI. And finally, the overlay. Now, I have this default async overlay. You can use it if you want to, and please go ahead and take a look at how I created it. But you can also create your very own. So at View Builder, let overlay. And first of all, we are going to add in, we are going to get back the state of async UI state, and then the retry completion. We need also an underscore over here. So retry, that would be our, let me just copy this out and paste it in there. Okay, and that would return an overlay content, there we go. But what is this overlay content? Well, it is a type of view. So let me just paste that in there, and then that would be of type of view. And instead of my modifier, let's just call this async overlay modifier, right? So it's much more explanatory of what it actually does. Now, because we are adding this is a blocking, also we should all know if it should show the actual overlay. Like on the content, that is, let's say a list, what I already set up, and then should it display the overlay on that content? So for that, I'm going to create a private var should show overlay. It's going to be a Boolean value, and we're going to switch through the state. And we're going to have basically two cases when we are idle. So case dot idle, we are going to return false. Of course, we're not going to show it when we are idle. And case dot let's see, empty, loading, and failed dot failure. Let's just see. Okay, let's remove this part because we don't need that on the switch of the state. Okay, so now that we have this should show overlay, we're going to actually add an overlay. So dot overlay, we're going to have a content right over here, and we are going to ask if should show overlay, we are going to get an overlay. We're going to get back the state and the on retry, and then we are going to add a frame, so max width and max height, so just going to expand as much as it can. We're going to add a content shape. There we go. It's going to be a rectangle, and then allows hit testing. We are going to check that if we are blocking any tap in interactions, and then we are going to add also a transition of dot opacity, because we are going to add also an animation on the overlay. So dot animation right over here. It's just going to be with the one with the value, and the animation would be is in and out with a duration of 0.2, for example, and the value, well, we are going to do the animation when the state changes. Okay, so it's relatively simple. If we should show the overlay, we are going to add the overlay with the state and on retry, and we are going to basically animate it, making sure that are we blocking or not, all of that stuff, and it just expands as farther as it can. Now it's time to add the actual view modifier. So it's going to be an extension on the view. There we go, extension on the view. And let's just create a function called async overlay. There we go. We are going to have a overlay content of type view. You know, we do need to have that right over here. And we are going to add in the following. First of all, the state, async UI state. Let me just see if it's suggesting the correct one. So is blocking, okay. On retry, that's also good. and escaping the overlay. Let me just add it in here. Let's see. Yeah, it's not doing a good job, but let me just move these out of the way. Let's see if at all it makes sense. Function declares an opaque return type. Yeah, we do need to add the modifier. So modifier, and we're going to have the async overlay modifier with the state. We're just going to pass it along. Is blocking on retry, and the overlay. And there we go. Let's see if all the errors went away. Let me just see. Expected expression. Let's just see. Yeah, so we need to have that parentheses removed. And then let me just see the other one. Yes, let's just apply that as a sendable. No, it's not sendable. On retry. Oh, we do need to have that main actor in there. Let me just see. On retry, it should be escaping. Escaping. Yeah, that's the way AI works. So you actually do need to know what you are typing in, and if you just choose something, you do need to just go back and see if everything is working as expected. So main actor. Okay, that's one thing. And then on the overlay, what's going on with the overlay? Okay, so we need to have a state right over here of type async UI state. And then I'm just going to copy this out from my notes over here, and we are going to go through it again. So there we go, paste it in there. Yeah, so we are going to need a state and the retry, a main actor, async void. Okay, now that we have this, we can use the default async overlay, which will have also a state and a retry. So we're just passing along into our custom view. So I'm just going to comment that in, and then let's just see failure, not failed, but let me just copy this out, failure. There we go. I'm going to have a message. Now everything should work as expected. So now we are just going to copy this out and just have that in, but we are going to remove this last part, you know, the custom view. We are going to get back some view. Therefore, we don't actually need this overlay content. Let's remove that part also. And on the, let me just grab this once more. So we're going to remove that, and then modifier. Come on. Am I missing something over here? Let's just see if AI is going to fix that. No? Okay. So we need a state is blocking, on retry main actor. That's great. It should be nil. It's going to return some view. And you know, I think I'm just going to copy this out, and then we are going to go through it because it's much more simpler than just typing all of that out. Async overlay with a state, and we don't need that extra one. We're going to pass along the state is blocking on retry, and there we go. So now we can just use the default async overlay with the state and the retry passed along. Okay, so finally, let's go back to our content view, and let's talk about these buttons. So we are going to load, and we're going to get a success value and an idle. We're going to also present an empty, and whenever we are failing. So I have prepared here our load success. And first of all, we want to add in our state variable. So we want to track our state. So at state private var state, that will be an async UI state, and the default would be idle. And then right over here on the list itself, we are going to bind it. So dot async overlay, And I'm going to choose the one with the on retry because I'm going to use the default views on that one. So state would be our state. And then on retry, I'm just going to go ahead and add await. And then on load success, for example, load success. Basically, if we are going to retry, we are going to go with a success value. Okay, so let's take care of these functions. Loading a success value, we are going to say, first of all, state equals dot idle. So first of all, we are, oh, sorry, not idle. We are going to go with loading. So it's just going to load. We're going to simulate right over here a little bit of waiting. So it's just going to be try, await, task, sleep for 9 million nanoseconds. So basically nearly a second. And then we are going to say, okay, everything is okay. We are going to get back that state to idle. Okay, so that's our loading on success. Let's build and run, and let me just show you how that looks like. Okay, let me just tap over here so it's loading, and then everything basically goes away. Now, what happens when we fail? First of all, we are going to do the loading again. Let's just have that pasted in there. And then we are going to say state equals dot failure, and then the message. Let me just copy out one default message right over here. So server timed out, please check your connection. Let's see that too. There we go. Load failed, it's loading, and then something went wrong, and server timed out, please check your connection. And when we retry, we are going to trigger the load success, basically this function right over here. Okay, now when we are basically do not have anything to load, it's going to be a little bit trickier. So first of all, the state would be loading, and then we are going to wait. Yes, that's fine. And then we're going to say state equals dot empty, and with a message, let me just copy this out. There we go. The item's fine. Try again later. And then we are going to wait once more and set it back to become idle. Okay, let's see that in action. Let's build and run one final time, and then loading, no items found, and then it's just going to remove it. We are going to get back to the idle state. And that's how easy it is to add a simple kind of progress async overlay whenever you are doing asynchronous functionality inside your app. If you did like this tutorial, go ahead and check out my Christmas sale. The link is down in the description.